Coming home early one day, I saw my wife spreading her legs under the neighbor guy, her old flame. But the shock didn't stop there. The baby in her belly. Not mine. Not his. She didn't even know whose it was. I came home earlier than planned. The 3-day business trip got cut short to just a few hours because a storm hit from the east. The boss said, "Go home, Zoom meetings work too." I felt glad then. After all, I missed home, missed my wife, missed Sammy. It took 7 hours to drive from New Jersey back to Ohio. I didn't call ahead, wanted to surprise her. Claire would be happy. She liked those sudden romantic tricks. A few times I sent flowers without a name. She even cried from being so moved. When I got home, the sky was already dark. The lights on the ground floor were still on. The back door wasn't locked, like always. The smell in the kitchen was still cinnamon and a bit of something like lavender essential oil, exactly like those warm evenings I always pictured. I thought Claire was upstairs putting Sammy to sleep, but the house was dead silent. No little footsteps running out like every time I came home. No Sammy shouting, "Daddy!" Even less the familiar laughter of Claire. Only the sound of moaning. Software. But real. I stood frozen at the foot of the stairs. For 1 second I thought I heard wrong. Maybe it was the sound of a movie. Or I imagined it. Then that sound came again. Clearer. Longer. It was Claire's voice. I don't know why I still walked up. I should have turned around and left. But my feet were stiff like stone. Each stair felt like it was pulling me up, each heartbeat pounding like it was yelling, "Don't look, don't open the door." But I still opened it, and I saw Claire, my wife, naked, collapsed under a man. Sweat stuck to the sheets I'd just changed last week. Her 2 hands wrapped around his back, mouth half open, eyes shut. And as I stood there like a clown, Claire opened her eyes. She looked at me, eyes wide open, mouth stammering. No words came out. Just confusion to the point of despair. That man, it was Nick, the neighbor guy right next to my house. The one I'd invited over for beers, lent my lawnmower to, sat and watched Super Bowl with, yelling like two crazies every time the Cleveland team scored. Nick looked at me too. But he didn't panic, didn't apologize, didn't dodge. He just stayed silent. I didn't scream, didn't punch, didn't curse. I only asked one single question. How long? Claire sat up, pulled the blanket to cover herself as if that was shameful now. Nick stood up, put his pants on, quietly walked past me without saying a word. And Claire said, 3 years. 3 years. I remember I walked out of the house like a shadow. Didn't take my phone, didn't take my wallet. I went out into the cold, the drizzle like needles stabbing, but I didn't feel a thing. I sat in the car, turned on the heater, but my heart was still cold. I looked out the windshield, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight they turned pale white. The phrase 3 years kept repeating in my head like a busted tape. 3 years. It was since Nick moved in. It was when Claire was still pregnant. It was throughout all those times I went on business trips thinking she was home taking care of the kid. Turns out I was the idiot. An idiot who knew how to love, knew how to provide, knew how to do everything, except realize his wife was lying under someone else every time he wasn't there. I turned on the radio. There was the song "Let Her Go" by Passenger playing. I turned it off right away. Couldn't bear it. Heartbreak music doesn't suit the kind of pain you can't even cry over. I went back to the house near dawn. Claire had put on clothes, sitting on the sofa, eyes red and swollen. She stood up when I came in, but I raised my hand to stop her. Don't. I went straight upstairs. Sammy was still sleeping soundly. The little guy hugged his teddy bear tight. I sat down beside him, stroked his hair, whispered, "Daddy's here now." I didn't sleep. Sat there all the way till morning, watching the little guy breathe evenly. And that was the first time I felt scared. Not scared of losing Claire, but scared of losing Sammy. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't close my eyes for even a second. I sat beside Sammy, hand resting lightly on the little guy's back, feeling each tiny breath, each faint stir. The little guy still slept peacefully, like nothing happened. I didn't have anything peaceful left anymore. The next morning, I went downstairs. Claire was brewing coffee. The smell rose up like every other morning. But now it made me feel sick. She put the coffee cup on the table. Her hands were trembling. I didn't touch it. Just sat down in the chair, looked at her. Didn't say anything. Because I didn't know what I should ask anymore. The questions in my head at that moment. They were too filthy to say out loud. Claire whispered, "I'm sorry." I looked straight into her eyes. "Is there anything else you haven't told me?" Silence. A long silence, heavy like death. Then she burst into tears. I I don't know who Sammy belongs to. I felt like someone had just slammed a hammer straight into my chest. What? I don't know. I At that time, I'd been with Nick, and there were others too. When you went to New York for 2 weeks, and that Boston trip back in September that year, I I couldn't control myself. I stood up. I didn't yell, but I was shaking from anger, from shock, from humiliation. You slept with how many people? Claire sobbed hard, shook her head. I don't know. Maybe 4, 5 people? 4? 5? I let out a laugh. A laugh that hissed through my teeth, twisted, dry as dust. So, the kid in my house could be the son of any random guy out of that bunch? She nodded. I'm sorry. I stepped out of the house. I had to go. If not, I'd smash something. Not because I was mad at Claire, but because I didn't know who I was anymore. A husband, a father, or just a pitiful side character in a filthy drama someone scripted 3 years ago? I drove to the edge of the forest. This was the spot where I'd once proposed to Claire. There was that big tree where I carved the letters D plus C equals forever. Now I looked at it again and only felt shame. I banged my head on the steering wheel. 1 hit, then 2 hits. Not hard enough to bleed, just enough to feel I was still alive, even though I wasn't sure why I still wanted to live anymore. That night I messaged someone. Not my best friend, not my mom, not a lawyer. It was Jeff Maurer, a guy who used to be a local cop, now turned private detective. The guy wasn't cheap, but he kept his mouth shut and got results. I asked, "Is there any way to confirm exactly if my kid's really mine?" The guy called back after 5 minutes. There is. A test kit. Just need hair or a saliva sample from the kid. Results take about a week. I took a hair sample from Sammy that night. My heart hurt like it was being squeezed to death. For the first time in my life, I prayed I was wrong. I wanted the kid to be mine. I'd rather be cheated on, betrayed, than lose the only thing I had left. A week later, I got the results. I held the white envelope in my hands, sitting in the car at the supermarket parking lot. I opened it. No biological relationship between Sample A, Daniel Whitmore, and Sample B, Sammy Whitmore. Not my kid. I folded the paper up, stuffed it into my pocket, and I burst into tears. The first time after so many years. Not because I hated the little guy, but because I loved him so much. I didn't want him to belong to anyone else but me. I moved out of the house a week after getting the test results. Not because I wanted to escape, but because I couldn't stand the feeling of living in that cozy nest that Claire and Nick had turned into a den of sin for 3 years straight. I rented a small apartment on the edge of town, near the old gas station, the spot where people only stopped by when they were nearly out of gas, not because anyone willingly chose to stay there. It suited me just fine. I didn't need anyone to find me right then. Claire called, texted, screamed, cried. I didn't reply. I didn't want to talk to someone who'd once looked straight into my eyes, said she loved me, then behind my back counted every fling like she was playing some point-collecting game. There was only one thing I still cared about. Sammy. I called a lawyer, said straight up, I want to fight for custody of the kid. The lawyer hesitated a bit, said, You know the kid's not your blood, right? I gritted my teeth. I know, but I'm the only one who loves him for real. He let out a sigh. Then get ready. This isn't going to be easy. 2 weeks later, I got a message from a strange number. Just one line. I think I'm the father of the kid. I stopped dead. Stared at the screen hard. A minute later, another message came. My name's Troy. I once hooked up with Claire a few years ago. Now I live in Columbus. Recently found out she had a kid. Damn it. Yet another guy. I didn't know if I should find it funny or want to smash my phone. I called the number back. His voice was young. Around 27, 28 maybe. He spoke properly, not rude. I'm not trying to steal the kid from you. I just want to know the truth. If he's really my son, I'll take responsibility. I took a deep breath, said flat out, I don't know who you are. I don't know when you slept with Claire, but don't come near the kid, you understand? He went quiet for a bit. Then said, I understand. But you understand me too, right? I just want to be certain. That's it. I hung up. That night, I went to pick up Sammy. Claire came to open the door. Her face looked worn out, nothing like the confident, seductive woman I once loved. You're gonna rob the kid away from me for real? I shrugged. Rob? If you were really a mom, you wouldn't have let him grow up in a messed up den like this house. She burst into tears. But this time, I didn't feel any pity anymore. I carried Sammy up into the car, drove off, didn't look back. When I got home, I saw someone standing in front of the door. The faint yellow light shone on a strange face, kind of familiar. When I got closer, I recognized him. It was Troy. He wore a jean jacket, hair all messy, face pale white from the cold. I'm sorry for coming all the way here, but I have this thing. He handed me a sheet of paper. A DNA test paper. I got a hair sample from the kid when I met him at Claire's place. I'm sorry for doing that, but I snatched the paper, read through it fast. The last line. Result? No blood relation. I looked at him. He shrugged. Not my kid. I stayed silent. I didn't know if I should feel glad or cry. Another one crossed off. Sammy was a kid whose dad nobody knew, and I became even more certain. I was the only one choosing to love him, even though there wasn't any reason beyond my heart. From after that phone call with that Troy guy, I couldn't be shocked anymore. Even if 5 more guys showed up, each with the test result in hand, saying, not mine either, I'd just shrug, nod, then give a faint laugh. Sammy, whose son was he? Now that question didn't mean anything anymore. There was only one thing I knew for sure. He needed me, and I needed him too. Claire and Nick started living together openly. Nick moved fully into the old house. They took the dog to the supermarket, hugged each other in the parking lot, posted cooking photos on social media. Like those 3 years of sneaking around were now some righteous love ballad. I stayed silent then. Not because I was weak, but because I didn't have anything left to say to those two anymore. Only Sammy was still the one who didn't understand what was going on. One time, the little guy asked, Daddy, why is Uncle Nick at our house but Daddy isn't? I swallowed hard, then answered, because Daddy and Mommy don't live together anymore, but Daddy's always right near you. Sammy nodded, then went back to playing with his Lego. Sometimes I wish the little guy would never grow up, never ask those questions that grown-ups like me couldn't find the answers to. I asked the lawyer to speed up the fight for custody. Claire reacted fiercely. She sent me text messages, pictures, test papers, all sorts of things to prove that I wasn't the kid's real dad, and she had the legal right to be a mom. She even wrote in her response filing, Daniel Whitmore isn't the father of the child. There's no legal reason for him to keep custody. I read that, and my teeth clenched tight. The woman who cried when I proposed, who wrote me handwritten letters in the hospital when I broke my leg, was now pushing me out of the kid's life. Like I was just some temporary stand-in. The lawyer told me, your chance of winning isn't big, if you can't prove Claire's got a lifestyle that badly affects the kid. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean? I'm saying, if you want to win custody, you've got to prove Claire isn't fit to be a mom. I went still. I'd once sworn I'd never hurt the woman I loved. But now, if I didn't fight, I'd lose Sammy forever. And then, I got a video clip. From a strange woman, Ava, an old best friend of Claire's now living in Michigan. Her message was real short. I'm not tight with Claire anymore, but I feel bad for the little kid. This is something you need to know. I pressed play on the video. Claire, drunk off her ass in a bar, kissing some young guy right there at the seat. In the background of the clip, you could hear Claire say, "I'm so damn tired of being a mom. You know what being a mom's like? It's like raising a dog, that's what." I squeezed the phone tight in my hand. Angry, pissed off, and hurting. I sent the clip to the lawyer. He said, "This has some value." I asked, "So if we win, I get full custody of Sammy? If the court agrees, then yeah, do it. Don't hold back anymore." And that was the first time I felt like I was taking back some fairness. Not because I got betrayed, not because I got replaced, but because I was fighting for the last thing I could still believe in. The court hearing happened on a morning in April. Light sunshine. The air cold just enough to make my hands shake, even though I wasn't sure if it was the weather or because I was about to do something I'd once sworn I'd never do. Expose the woman I'd once loved with my whole life. Claire walked in with Nick. Her hand held his like a declaration. Her eyes still red, but she didn't cry anymore. Just cold and guarded. Sammy sat outside with someone from the court, an old lady with silver hair, called some kind of child psychology supervisor for minors. The little guy didn't get what was happening. He just asked me, "Daddy, why are we going to court?" I bent down, looked into his eyes. "Because Daddy wants to be with you even more." He nodded. "So tomorrow we keep playing Lego, okay?" I smiled. My throat choked up. "Yeah. Tomorrow. And all the days after that, too." Inside the courtroom, everything was cold. From the judge's portrait on the wall to the way the lawyers spoke each word like they were reading a delivery order for coffee. Claire's side brought up, "DNA proof showing Daniel isn't the real dad." He walked out of the house. "He's got a history of stress and depression." My lawyer then brought up the video of Claire drunk, Ava's statement, and some photos of Claire dating a few other guys while she was pregnant, gathered from social media. Nobody denied I wasn't the blood father, but I was the one who raised him, the one who didn't abandon him, the one who was there for every big moment in Sammy's life. The judge asked Claire, "Do you know who the real father of the kid is?" Claire looked down. 1 second, 2 seconds. Number, I don't know. How many possibilities? How many guys could it be? Not sure. Maybe 4, 5 people. The air in the room froze solid. I looked at Claire, and for the first time I didn't feel mad. I felt sorry for her. She used to be the sunshine of my life. And now she was a lost soul, trying to hold on to anything so she wouldn't fall completely into freefall. The judge called me up. "You don't have a blood tie. Why do you want to raise the kid?" I took a deep breath. "Because the little guy's called me daddy since the first day he could talk. Because I was the one changing his diapers the first night he had a fever. Because I was the one teaching him to tie his shoelaces, the one telling him bedtime stories every night. I don't need DNA. I've got love. And if the court needs more of a reason..." I dug in my pocket, pulled out a messy little drawing. Sammy drew me and him standing side by side with a sun above and the words, "My dad," written wrong as "my dead." I held it up. "This is the reason." The judge went quiet. The whole room, too. I could hear my own heart beating clear as day. At the end of the session, the judge announced, "Main custody, Daniel Whitmore. Limited visitation rights, Claire Miller." I didn't cheer. I just let out a real long breath. And right then, I turned to look at Claire. She didn't cry, didn't say a thing, just looked at me. No longer a lover, no longer a betrayer, but like a person who'd lost in her own life. That night, I brought Sammy back to the new home. The little guy laughed the whole way. Only I stayed quiet. In my head, one question still echoed. Did I do the right thing? Sammy ran into the room, hugged his teddy bear tight, then called out, "Daddy, tell me the Super Daddy story again." I sat down on the edge of the bed, stroked his hair. "Super Daddy's tired today. Tomorrow, okay?" "Tomorrow is forever, right, Daddy?" I looked at him. Yeah, it's forever. I thought everything had settled down. I was wrong. 3 weeks after the court hearing, an envelope with no name got slipped under my door. I opened it. Inside was a photo. Old, faded, Claire sitting on the lap of some strange guy. They were in a dark bar, his face kind of blurry, but there was one detail that made my hair stand on end. A wolf tattoo on his left wrist. The photo didn't come with a note, but on the back, there were a few sloppy handwritten lines. I want to meet the kid. He's my blood. I'll come myself. No phone number, no name. I sat down hard on the chair, stared hard at the words. Claire never once mentioned this guy. I called Ava, the old friend who'd sent the drunk Claire video. She picked up after the second ring. Ava, I need to know, did Claire ever go with a guy who had a wolf tattoo? Silence on the other end. Then she said, damn it, Jason. Jason, who? Jason R. Hunter. Claire was with him when she was still living in Chicago. He's older than her by 12 years, a gangster type, got a criminal record. That story Claire never told anyone about. He once beat her so bad she had to go to the hospital. My heart turned cold. Did they break up? She ran away, changed her number, moved out in the middle of the night, didn't leave a single trace. I dropped the phone, sat there looking at Sammy playing with his plastic dinosaurs in the living room. The little guy grinned big, mouth calling out, Daddy! I made a dinosaur sound now. Listen. Roar! I smiled back. But in my head, only one sound rang. Jason. 2 days later, I saw a guy standing at the park near Sammy's preschool. Old jean jacket, sleeves rolled up high, wolf tattoo. I walked over, face calm, heart pounding like it was about to burst. You're Jason? He turned around, grinned, took a puff of his cigarette. Yeah, and you're the dad of the kid now, right? I clenched my fists tight. I don't care who you are. You're not allowed to come near him. He shrugged. I'm not doing anything wrong. I just want to know if he's really mine. I said cold as ice. You're late by 3 years. I've raised him every single day. I'm his dad, you get that? Jason stepped closer one step. You love him, good, I'm happy about that. But I can't just disappear. I'll check his DNA. And if it's true he's mine, I've got rights. I looked straight into his eyes. Fine. But if he's not, you get lost. Don't leave anything behind. Don't come back. I swear. I'll do everything to make sure you never get a chance to see the kid again. He took one last drag on his cigarette, then turned around and walked off. You've got guts, Daniel. I respect that. But blood is blood. I'll come back. That night, I didn't sleep. I looked at Sammy sleeping, listened to his light, even breaths, a fear with no name twisting up inside me. I'd won the court case. I'd raised him, loved him. But still could lose my kid to a guy like Jason. For the first time in my life, I thought about running away, leaving the town, changing our names, living hidden, starting over. But I didn't do it. I knew if I ran, Sammy would never understand why. I wouldn't let Claire's past or any guy stepping out from hell snatch my kid out of my hands. If it came to it, I'd fight with my own blood. 3 weeks after the first time I met Jason, he came back. No heads up, no call, no politeness. He came to the gate of the preschool, waiting for Sammy to get out. I found out when the teacher called me in the middle of work, voice shaking. Daniel, there's a strange guy here claiming he's the real dad of Sammy. I raced there in less than 10 minutes, and I saw him, Jason, squatting down next to Sammy, talking, laughing, giving the little guy a toy car. I stepped up, fast. My face wasn't calm anymore. Get the hell out. He stood up. I just wanted to see him a little. He's happy. I stood blocking between him and Sammy, my voice cold like steel. I told you last time already. You don't have the right to come near him. He pulled out a sheet of paper from his pocket, handed it to me. I grabbed it, read it quick, and my heart felt like it got squeezed tight. Result: blood relation confirmed. Jason R. Hunter is the biological father of the child. He looked at me, eyes not mocking me. I don't want to take him away from you. I see you're a good dad, but I want him to know I exist, that's all. I looked at him, my heart pounding wild, my brain screaming, no, I won't share the kid with anybody. I don't want to. I won't accept it. But my mouth blurted out, one time, 15 minutes, right here, in front of me. Sammy looked at me, then looked at Jason. Daddy, who's this? I knelt down, looked into the kid's eyes. He's Daddy's friend. This uncle used to know your mommy. Sammy nodded, didn't ask more. He was still too little to understand. Jason sat with Sammy for exactly 15 minutes. Didn't ask too much. Didn't touch him. Just sat there, talked, listened to the little guy ramble on about fire trucks and dinosaurs. When the time was up, he stood up, looked at me, then said, he doesn't need to know who I am. But you need to know, you're doing better than I thought. Thanks for not turning the kid into a copy of me. I didn't say anything, just nodded. He turned around, walked away. I knew he wouldn't come back, not because he lost, but because he just learned how to let go too. Sammy still lives with me. We moved to a smaller house out by the edge of the forest, where there's the sound of birds chirping every morning and the smell of fresh grass every afternoon. The little guy grows up day by day, knows how to tie his shoelaces, knows how to write his name, knows how to ask, Daddy, why don't I look like Daddy? I pulled him into my arms. Because you're special. And the most special thing is, you chose to call me Daddy, not anybody else. He hugged me, giggling into my chest. I looked out the window, the sunlight fell on the grass outside, and I knew. I didn't need blood, didn't need signatures. I only needed that call every morning. Daddy,